Okay, let's talk about self-control. What if I told you that almost everything we've been taught about it is, well, wrong? That it's not about gritting your teeth and just fighting harder. It's about thinking smarter. So in this explainer, we're going to open up a whole new toolbox for a totally different approach. You know the drill, right? We've all heard it a million times. To resist that extra slice of cake or, to finally put your phone down, you've just got to try harder. Dig deep. Use more willpower. It's always framed as this huge, epic battle of mind over matter.
But here's where it gets really interesting. What if that whole idea is just off? What if the people who are best at self-control aren't actually fighting this constant, exhausting battle? What if their secret isn't fighting harder, but not fighting at all?
Okay, so to really get this new approach, we first have to tear down the old one. Let's talk about the myth of willpower. So for ages, psychology has talked about willpower as this thing called effortful inhibition. It sounds a little academic, but think of it like that classic cartoon image, right? A little devil on one shoulder, an angel on the other. And the angel has to constantly, effortfully shut the devil down. It's all about actively wrestling with your impulses. And then, bam, researchers at The Ohio State University drop this bombshell. It turns out the very people who report using this effortful inhibition the most, the ones who feel like they're always fighting themselves, they're actually the least successful at self-control. It's just wild. They're trying harder and failing more.
So if brute mental force isn't the answer, then what is? Well, it's not about working harder. It's about working smarter.
And this is the big mental shift we need to make. Stop thinking of self-control as a muscle that you have to flex until it's exhausted. Instead, think of it like a toolbox. It's filled with all these different tools, different skills, different strategies. And real success is just about knowing which tool to pull out for which job. Now, these tools pretty much fall into two big categories. You've got your mental tools. These are all about changing the way you think. And then you have your behavioral tools, which are about changing the world around you. So you ready? Let's open this thing up. All right, first up, the mental tools. This is all about the work you do inside your own head. Okay, tool number one is what we call mental reframing. Basically, it's about changing how you see a temptation so it just loses its grip on you. The goal isn't to fight it head on, it's to transform it into something less tempting. And a really powerful way to do this is to stop focusing on the how and start focusing on the why. So instead of thinking about the concrete action, like, I am chewing this salad, you zoom out to the bigger picture. I am staying healthy. You're not just resisting a cigarette, you're choosing to live a longer life. See how that feels different? It makes that big, long-term goal feel way more real and urgent right now. Okay, so we've talked about changing your mind. Now let's talk about changing your world. These are the behavioral tools. This is where you literally engineer your environment to make the right choice the easiest choice. First up in the behavioral toolbox is something called temptation bundling. This one is so clever. You just pair something you really want to do with something you feel you should do. It's genius, right? Let's say you love listening to your favorite podcast. That's the want. And you know you should go for a run. You bundle them. You make a rule you're only allowed to listen to that podcast while you are running. One study found that students who could only listen to a really gripping audiobook at the gym, well, you can guess what happened. They went to the gym way more often. You're not strong-arming yourself, you're luring yourself. All right, and this next one, this might just be the most powerful tool in the entire box. It's called situational modification. And the philosophy is simple. The easiest way to win a fight is to never even have to show up for it. Honestly, this is the big secret of people with what we call high self-control. They're not superheroes who can stare down a temptation for an hour. They are just architects of their own environment. They're the ones who choose to study in the library, not their distracting dorm room. They're the ones who put their phone in another room during dinner. They literally design their lives so that willpower is rarely even needed. But here's what's maybe the coolest part of all of this. This whole toolbox approach feels super modern, right? Like some cutting-edge psychological hack. But it's not. Turns out, modern science is just catching up to wisdom that's literally thousands of years old. So remember that mental reframing tool we talked about? In psychology, they also call it cognitive reappraisal. The whole point is you change the meaning of something to change how you feel and act in response to it.
Okay, hold that thought. Now, let's rewind a couple thousand years and look at the ancient Stoic philosophers. They had this idea of a passion, which basically meant a destructive emotion. And where did they say it came from? Not from events themselves, but from a failure to reason correctly. In other words, from our bad judgments about those events. I mean, that's just incredible, isn't it? The parallel is stunning. You have two totally different traditions, thousands of years apart, and they both landed on the exact same idea. It's not the thing itself that has power over us, it's our judgment about the thing. We have the ability to reframe our world. For the Stoics, this was the whole game. The goal was to use your reason to see the world clearly, as it is, to align your will with nature. And this wasn't about just passively accepting things. It was about seeing reality clearly so you could act rationally. And that, they believed, was the path to a calm, well-reasoned, self-controlled life. So if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Self-control is not some magical trait you're either born with or you're not. It is a set of practical, learnable skills. It's a toolbox that anyone, and I mean anyone, can learn to use. So, as we wrap this up, the question really isn't about the theory anymore, it's about you. Think about a goal you have or a challenge you're facing. Which of these strategies will you try first? Reframing your why, bundling a temptation, or just changing your situation? What's the first tool you'll add to your toolbox?